G'day, welcome to the Inforunners and Fix My Fleet. I'm Execute. Today I'm joined by my co-host Algared. How you doing, mate?
Doing fairly well. How are yourself?
Yeah,
Well, how is yourself?
getting on. I did a bit of a board game unboxing this week, so something different. Put that up on my own personal channel, but that was a bit of fun. But other than that, yeah, been well. All right. While we're talking about hashtag Jane this week, I'm also going to mention that we've decided to kind of give it away a little bit early. We haven't mentioned about that. So instead of waiting for 12,500 subscribers, we're going to give it away at 11,000. So that means currently at this juncture, we need 110 subscribers. So not very many at all. We could probably hit that easily within a month. And so then we'll give away that F7A upgrade and Super Hornet that belonged to Eric Lanza. And find a new home for it since
Mm.
he is now no longer with us.
Yeah,
All
and that'll be
right.
a really nice pickup for whoever does
Mm.
benefit.
We've had lots of comments of people mentioning that they want to call it Jaden, so maybe that may happen. Actually, why I'm here. I'm also mention this as well. We were when we did the review for the Toby eye
Maybe.
tracker. I don't use mine. It's sitting just up here on a shelf, and I'm not using it. So what I'll also do is, if you, I'm going to start another little competition right here. Actually, I'll start it after this one. But the idea I'm thinking of at the moment is nominate someone that you think needs it, or someone that is couldn't buy one on their own or something like that. But you got to be nominated. You can't nominate yourself. You got to get someone to nominate you. Someone that maybe is in some hard times or something like that. And we'll get it to someone that actually really needs it, and someone that you know that could use it. So someone
Yeah.
that'll
And think of it
make
as
use of it.
an extension of the Jade stuff. So
Mm,
looking at, are you all right? Checking up on someone and kind
yeah.
of doing it as that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Looking at something that may actually make a difference for someone and actually
Mm,
give them a boost, make
yeah.
them feel
So
good in these trying times.
So we'll officially kind of launch that as like a small little one-off, and that'll probably only be, might run that for a month or something like that. We'll see what we can do there, but yeah, we'll do that after Jaden is ship is given away. All
Mm.
right then, moving on to today's show. So this is not a traditional fix my fleet. This is me and Algared trying to show that we think there's a fundamental shift moving forward on how you need to look at how you're doing your fleets. Now, traditionally, Algared, we've almost always recommended the capital ships because they are the best value and you can earn down. And today we're going to show you a way where you can compromise a little bit. And we think, how would you put it, Aaron? I put it like we're kind of protecting ourselves a little bit because there has been some fundamental changes at CIG and they're being a little bit more, I'll say, ruthless than usual in the last couple of years. And also they've kind of brought this on themselves a little bit with the Warbond CCUs. And what we're going to show today is especially indicative for new players.
Yeah. This is certainly looking at building your fleet. I suppose it's building your fleet for new players who want
Mm,
to try out different professions, but also don't want to go in and get a capital and then find, I really don't like that ship or I really don't like that gameplay. So we're
yeah,
looking at the ways in which you can test the waters and then go in full hog if you want.
yeah.
Um,
And I will
and
say, while we're targeting this at profession-based ships, you could. This essentially does work for combat as well, but combat always seems to go wider than other things. So
yeah,
you can apply this to others, but we're trying to give you we try to keep it simple and more elegant, so it's easier to take in. And there is like in our notes here, there's literally only 9 things, right? And if you can take those on board, I wish I'd put them on the screen now, Agrid, but I didn't. So unfortunately, what I'll do is I'll
yeah,
chuck them in the description below. All right, so
yeah.
they're down there. I'll literally copy the notes and I'll put them straight down there. Yeah. All right. So I think we'll roll it straight over to the browser, Algrid.
Yeah.
And I've just realized something. That's all right. I'm fixing it on the fly as we go. That's fine. And here we go. Oof. There we go. All right. So these are the 4 ships Algrid and I picked. So we've just
And these are our starter profession ships.
yeah,
If you hadn't worked it out already.
yeah.
Um,
So we've gone repair, medical, salvage, and mining. Um,
yeah.
and the fundamental shift from this is we kind of picked this up, this idea, and then we've kind of rolled other things into it. When we did Fix My Fleet, probably about a month ago now, someone came back to us and said, I'm going to take the starting profession ships, and if that gameplay is proven, I'm then going to upgrade to the bigger ships. And it got a concept rolling in mine and Algared's head, and we've worked it through a lot more. And that's what we're essentially presenting to you today. And it's a fundamental shift or a change of plan going forward. And if you were to say you were not into mining and all of a sudden you wanted to get that Orion, this is a way you could test that theory as well. So it's not just for new people, but fundamentally it is. I think Algared
Yeah.
would agree.
I
It's
think
fundamentally the best
fundamentally
for
it
new.
is fundamentally it is really for new people or people who haven't invested as much. Someone like Execute myself or anyone who's got a lot more invested, this
Mm,
this approach doesn't really work. You can
mm.
apply it, but yeah, you'd find better use for just going the larger ships in a situation like myself or Execute.
Yeah. So
But for a
the
new
fun,
player,
yeah. So the fundamental change is this: is you get the starting profession ship, because we know from everything they've said, the starting profession ships are going to be the first ships that they put in the game. So you take later on this year, we're expecting the Vulcan to possibly come online, even though the Reclaimer's in game, right? So the first test of that profession will be the Vulture. Did I say Vulcan? I meant Vulture. Um, but they've also stated that when you own the larger ships, they're going to give you even the Reclaimer, even though it's in game, they're going to give you the Vulture so you can test out that gameplay. So
yeah,
what the fundamental thing is, the two things here, and I did say 9 things, it's actually 8 things in the entire notes. But the fundamental thing is here is you get the starter ship and you secure the CCU to the top one, but just from a more everyday available ready ship. So in the case of let's do all of them. So the Vulcan, the top level one would be the Crucible. So you'd probably pick up something like a Gemini to Crucible for that one. The Cutlass Red, you could probably just get a Cutlass Black to a Cutlass Red. The Vulture, sorry, what am I doing? No, not Cutlass Red.
you
The top
go for
one.
the colours red. You'd look at getting to the Endeavour or an
That's
Apollo
yeah,
or
yeah.
something.
So you'd be going Gemini to Endeavor. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. The Vulture, you would be the Reclaimer. So again, you're looking something. I'm trying to think of an everyday available ship up though. It gets a lot harder as you go up though. So again, you could still just do the Gemini if you wanted to, but I'm trying to think of another
And
one in
the
that price range.
and the Prospector would be your Orion, getting a CCU to the Orion from the closest ship to that. Um,
Yep.
and from what Execute was saying about what we've said about bringing on those starter ships as being the first tier for the profession, we've seen that already. We saw that with mining profession. The Prospector was the first ship that they had, which had the mining, and then they built it out from there. And then when they started to bring medical on, and they brought the medical beds on, we had the Red and a few other ships that have them, but the Red actually has an ability that it's not going to have later in game. It currently has the ability to respawn.
Yep.
That is something that's been reserved for higher tier beds in the Apollo or the Endeavour. But at the present, because it's really the first tier medical bed or medical gameplay ship, it does have that ability.
My eyes are killing me. They're really itchy.
I
Looking
can
at
tell
these. I
that.
don't know what's killing me. Anyway, so these are the middle tier ships. Now, obviously, we have some of the professions missing, and we've also got medium tiers and the large tiers. So, we don't have things like for example, we've got the Prospector, the Mole, and then we've got the Orion, but we're missing this large one in here.
We,
Um,
we expect there'll be a large one, but yeah, it's one of those things that we
mm.
can't say for certain because you don't know.
They've actually said they're trying to get a ship in every size class, so
Mm.
we've only got
And
their
that's
word to
really
go
all
on.
we can work on, isn't it?
Yeah, we can only go on their word, and it's the same thing for the medical class because you've got your Cutlass Red, you've got your Apollo, and then you've got your Endeavor, but there's one missing there as well. But now, obviously, we can't give you that example for salvage and mining. Sorry, not mining. God, what I'm beside myself today.
Salvage
Salvage
and repair.
and repair. Thank you very much.
Yep.
So we don't have example of those two ships that are missing, and there very well may not be a ship in the middle. Right? We just don't know based on what they've said, but we can only take their word that they've said that they want to try and get one for every size class. So we just wanted to point out that these middle ones, some advantages of these middle ones are things like um, they're probably going to be the most versatile ships because they scale down and up. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean something, if you take the smallest ship in the game, it can't scale below its means because there is nothing. So it can only go up one. And if you get the reclaimer at the top, it's in the same thing. It's kind of up against a wall. It can't scale above itself, but it can scale below itself into the area of the large ships. But these ships, the medium and the large, they can scale down to a small or up to a large, and so that, and it's the same thing with the large, and go up to a capital and down to a medium. But and they have that crossover overlap where the capitals and the smalls just can't do that. So versatility for these ships, and it's probably why we're seeing them last, because they are the better ones to buy. Um, but again, until we see them on paper, it's hard to tell.
And the other thing with these medium-sized ships is generally the gameplay. The
Mm.
Mole is a ship that you can actually take out solo, but it is fundamentally so much more fun if you take it out with a couple of mates. Now, I know a lot of miners would say, hey, it's better to take out 3 or 4 prospectors, but, I still find myself, I actually like to take out the Mole by myself rather than a prospector.
Mm.
It's just,
Yeah.
you can do it. Prospector does have advantages if you're by yourself, but you can easily do it with a Mole. But then I can also go take out with nephews or friends, and we can still have a lot of fun
Mm.
doing that gameplay as well. So that's one advantage you do get with those mid-tier ships as well.
Agreed, 100%. All right, and finally, the large variants. These are the ones that we've traditionally recommended all the time, and we still do recommend them as best value. An example that Algared, tell me about the Reclaimer, how you were talking about that before the show, Algared, because we did struggle with
Yeah,
price points. So
when we were looking at the reclaimer is because of the crew requirement on the reclaimer, it really does fit into that top tier of that middle.
yeah,
It's 5 people, and
it
so if
walks.
you've got a small group of friends, you can do that, and yet it still gives you that
Yeah,
top tier gameplay. And
yeah. So
so,
it's 5 to what is it? 5 players max, I think. So
yeah,
it does walk that line between large to capital 100%. It probably is only
and yet
really
it
a large. Yeah.
and yet it's still our top tier refinery ship.
Mm.
And so, if you were looking at going into that gameplay, you could go that ship in the mid tier,
Mm.
and then if you were looking at going to another profession, you could still keep that as your top profession ship
Mm.
in that, and then have a second ship. So it really is one of those ships that in that middle
Mm.
ground, and yet there is more likely or possibly going to be that a ship in between the Vulcan and that, which will require less crew.
Mm.
But that's
I was just gonna say the Crucible is probably like the Reclaimer as well, but like on the vast other end, you've got the Endeavour, and then somewhere in the middle, you've got the Orion, where the Endeavour is going to be like
mm,
an actual hospital. The Endeavour is 5 to 8, so not the Endeavour, sorry, the Orion is 5 to 8.
Crucible.
Yeah,
So it's a Crucible, I believe.
no, no, I think the Crucible is only 5, but I digress. Point I'm trying to make is they are a little
Yeah.
bit all over the shop at this end. But yeah, I still fundamentally at their price point. Like like we can take the Orion as an example. It is drastically increased in price. The
Mm,
Reclaimer is probably not going to increase in price. So there's your two different ends of the
yeah.
scale. But we're expecting both the Crucible and the Endeavour to balloon, much like the Orion has
The
done.
Orion did.
And the Orion was cheaper than both of them
Yeah.
initially.
And
So
And one of the advantages that you look at when you do go to these large ships is even though the Endeavour's not in game at present, if you have the Endeavour, you will actually have access to a Starfarer and the Cutlass Rig.
mm,
Why don't you have the Apollo? Well, the Apollo's not in game at the moment, so they can't loan you the Apollo. But I
mm,
expect when the Endeavour's not out yet and the Apollo is, that will actually get added to that ship as a loaner because
yeah,
as they've done with the Reclaimer, they have said when uh, salvage comes online and the Vulture is in game, people who own the Reclaimer will actually get that Vulture to test the gameplay, because that's where the salvage
mm.
gameplay is going to start.
Now, I don't know if Algred agrees with me here or not, but I'm expecting two of these ships, so the Orion and the Reclaimer. And I'll chuck this, though the Starfarer is not here, I'll chuck this in as an example as well, is they all have refineries on board. So I'm almost
Mm,
expecting when this refinery ship comes online, that they may be given as a loaner. So if you actually look at the Orion right now, you get the Prospect and the Mole. But if it, say that Orion refinery ship comes out and it's like $220, even then the Orion's price point is not maxed out. So you
yeah,
fundamentally may get a Mole, a Prospector, and a refinery ship as loaners for the Orion. Now, I'm not saying that is going to happen, but chances
but
are
it does make sense.
It does make sense, especially for something like the Reclaimer at the moment, where all it does is fly around in game and it can't actually do anything. I would be really surprised if you don't
Can
get
take cargo.
yeah, yeah, but I'd get really surprised if you didn't get a Vulture and a Refinery for those by the end of
Yeah,
the year. I'd be really
yeah, and
surprised.
I 100% agree. I think the Starfarer, the Reclaimer, and the Orion, if and when the refinery ship comes online at tier 0, that we will get those people who own those ships will get that as a loaner
Mm,
just so that, it can be used.
yeah. All right, so I'm going to briefly go over this again just to consolidate it and get that in your head. So really quickly, um, pick up a starter ship, lock in that gameplay, test out the gameplay, pick up the CCUs to the ship above that you want, and that way you can test, refine the gameplay, make sure it's for you, and it gives you room to switch. So, for example, say you find that you like repair over medical, you can sell off your medical ship, sell off your medical CCUs, and push that off into the gap between the CCU
Mm,
and the vulture you picked up to get to the ship above, which in this case would be the crucible, right? So, it's just a fundamental change of thinking that is going to save you money. It's going to protect you a little bit so you don't have to put a huge outlay out, and you can kind of diversify and test
yeah,
everything. So instead of, and I'm just going to give you a rough roundabout here, instead of spending $5,000 and buying everything, you could almost spend $1,000 and test everything. And it's a
mm,
fundamental change in how we're going to kind of proceed going forward. It's a big shift. If you are further down the line and you have spent, couple of $1,000, it's not going to make that difference to you. But it's a message you can pass on to new people to protect them and learn from the mistakes that we've made and yourselves potentially.
and one example of the type of thing we're talking about is we've had people who've said, "I wanted to get into mining. I got the ships for mining. I tried it, and then I found I didn't like it." And so they actually wanted to get out of it, but they'd spent the money, so it was kind of reshuffling. This is really a shift in terms of looking at, okay, I'm starting off, I want to get into this gameplay, I'm thinking I want to get there, but testing the waters and not going the whole hog before you actually know. And it just saves, well, it's getting the best bang for your buck, really, isn't it?
Exactly.
Which has always been our message.
100% agree on that one. All right, so I know this might be a little weird for some people because it is a fundamental change of plan or a fundamental change of thinking, but I think it is a better way to go. It protects you, and especially with the aggressive marketing, it also leaves you open. That's one big thing we didn't mention, is it really does leave you open to chain CCUs, right? If we take our time, this is more, you can do it short term if you want, or you can do it long term. That's the also the advantage of this plan. If you want to sit back with all those starter ships and just chain CCUs all the way through to save a lot of money, you can do that, right?
Yeah.
And it allows you to melt them off if you don't want to, and merge them all over into different lanes. So it's kind of, think of it like a multi-lane approach where you're diversifying your
Yep.
portfolio, almost like your business, and then basically as you come close to release, you can hone into the ones you want. Or if you really want to double down, you can put more money in. It just makes it really flexible.
Yep.
And we
Y-
haven't had a flexible approach like this for a long time. It's only
yep.
like it's taken Algared and I that long to get to this point, and that it's only been there since Invictus last year. So this is only in the last 12
Yep.
months we've started to change our thinking.
And part of that has really been the introduction of those war bond CCUs, isn't it? Because those war bond CCUs often give you that saving. And if you go back and have a look at a video
Yep.
from Invictus where we looked at the Polaris,
Mm.
you were able to get a Polaris just using war bond CCUs from Invictus for $200 cheaper than normal. And that was like, yeah,
Mm. I'm
that was awesome.
I, I know this is a little bit off topic and we didn't plan this, Harry, but I'm almost suspecting war bond CCs are too good to the point that they may stop doing them. That's how good they
Mm.
are. But what are your thoughts on that? Do you think they may stop them?
Yeah, I
It's
don't
tough.
know.
It's tough call, isn't it? I know.
It's a tough call. Yeah, I think that maybe something they may keep as being a subscriber benefit. They'll chuck them in
Mm,
every month or so. But I don't know. I really don't. It's certainly they've certainly been a cash cow for them in terms of generating revenue, and that's
mm,
always a big
yeah.
thing.
Mm,
I think if the revenue dropped off on those, they'd stop them. But yeah,
mm.
I don't know.
I think it's setting up future problems, though, especially with the example you gave about the Polaris this year. I think there'll be a lot of people absolutely stupefied that they paid $650 for a war bond. And back then there was no unique skins or anything like that. And then literally a couple of years later, you can get it just at a random sale for $525 for absolutely no reason.
Well, the original Polaris did have the unique serial number, but
Not the same as a
for
unique
200
skin
bucks,
like they offered later, like
for
on a
200
normal.
bucks,
Yeah, yeah,
for 200 bucks, is it worth it?
no. But yeah, I meant more
So yeah,
like I meant more like later on where they offered like unique skins for like the
yeah.
Nautilus and stuff like that. So there's nothing that really holds its value. And a serial number to me, whatever. All right, with that
It's
then.
nice, but like you said, it's not worth 200 bucks.
Exactly. All right, so with that then, I'll chuck up Jaden again here. Remember, we are giving it away earlier than we said now, so hashtag Jaden in the comments. Please let us know your thoughts too on what you think of this, because this is a big fundamental change. It's different from what we've been going through, and I can probably see a lot of people saying, "I told you so" for years. It's actually fundamentally different, mainly because of the war bond stuff is the big thing, and fundamental shift and change of how things have occurred. All right, yeah, I'll leave it with that. Algared, anything you would like to say?
Don't forget, like, subscribe, leave your comments below. We do read them all. We may not answer them all, but we do read them all. If you want to go the extra yard, we would love to see you on Patreon. It does actually help us improve our equipment and hopefully the quality of our show.
Significantly so. All right, then, I'll love you and leave you. I've been Execute. He's been Algared.
I've been Algared, and we're out of
Catch
here.
you in the next one.